Marco asks our last question, and it'll be fun. It seems to me that in a recent podcast, you mentioned that you gave up on pull-ups in your new hypertrophy book, The Armor Building Formula. Since I adore them, can you give me a concrete answer why? Yeah, I have a whole chapter in this book on it. Maybe you should buy the book. DanJohnUniversity.com/bookstore. I'm just joking with you. I hope that in the new book there are some guidelines or ideas on how to best integrate them into the training itself. I'm currently doing them after the ABC complex. That seems somehow more logical to me. So, Marco, first off, I agree with you. I think if you're going to do pull-ups, separate them. Okay, the issue is, I'm not going to give you everything, okay, Marco? I mean, you know, I got 2 dogs, I got daughters, I got 4 grandchildren. You know, I got to make a living here. Got to sell my books. So, number one, no matter when I talk about pull-ups, guess what the first question is? Okay, I'll say, 3 sets of 3 is a good workout. First question, Dan, I can't do a single pull-up. What should I do? So then I have to come up with a pull-up program for that. And the moment I come up with a pull-up program for the person who can't do one pull-up, then people ask me, when you say hang, what do you mean by hang? I mean, hang. Well, do you mean, and then they'll come up with like 20 hang variations I've never heard of. So basically, Marco, it's frustration upon frustration when I answer that question. Right after that, the next question that shows up is, Dan, whenever I do pull-ups, it hurts my elbows and I can't do them. Right. And the joke we've used for, this is from the last millennium, middle-aged pull-up syndrome. Once you hit a certain age, your elbows hurt. You can call it tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, pull-up elbow, but it's MAPS, man. So when I say pull-ups, and then the other thing, I'll give it all to you, is this always follows up. Dan, I don't have a place to do pull-ups or chin-ups. What should I do? So questions about people who can't do pull-ups, people who get hurt doing pull-ups, question about people who can't do it because they don't have equipment. So I just kind of sat back one day and I went back through, and I went deep, man. I went back through all the Harry Pascal books. Those are the Bosco books from back in the day. And then I went to workouts by Frank Zane's first workouts. Frank Zane, Mr. Olympia, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. Probably as I sit back and fold my arms after all these years, Frank was my favorite bodybuilder. He was a school teacher. He's an artist. He was one of the people who really convinced me to get into meditation. His approach was always very scientific, very balanced. Yeah, he trained hard, man. Frank Zane's first workouts, there's no pull-ups. When you read a whole bunch of early people's training, there was no pull-ups. Since I believe, and this is a foundational belief I have, Marco, that the body is one piece, I get questions sometimes about the armor building complex. Well, what do you do for chest? Well, the body's one piece. I'm not a believer, like many of our listeners and readers, that the body is lumped together like Frankenstein's monster. I believe it's one piece. So for me, when you talk about lats, you talk about chest, I think you get them from traditional full body movements, the deadlift, the squat, the bench, the powerlifting movements, the clean and press, the snatch, the clean and jerk, the traditional Olympic lifts, your traditional power bodybuilding movements. I think you get it there. So why don't I talk about why am I starting to move a little bit away from the pull-up is because so many people have issues with it, so that when I'm looking at the 99% of the population, 99%, it goes back to the thing I say at every workshop, 1 in 20 people floss their teeth, 1 in 20 people exercise. So when I'm looking at the group of people who does exercise, the 1 in 20, if 19 out of the 20 people have issues with an exercise, I kind of scratch my ear and go, well, the 1 in 20, for the 1 in 20 of the 1 in 20 who love pull-ups and chin-ups, do pull-ups and chin-ups. For the rest of you who just want to look good, feel good, move good, do whatever you think is appropriate. I know I know, Marco, that's not the best. Oh, by the way, I read online that I rant all the time, which I thought was hilarious because obviously you've never actually been with me. If you think that was ranting, you ought to hear me go off on all kinds of other things. So that's why, Marco. And it's not, here's the thing. When people say, well, Dan, why you're against lunges? Well, not against lunges. Well, but look at the workout I was talking about. This person is having you do 10,000 lunges, but they're not around to help, fund your knee repair. These burpee things. It's not that I like or hate burpees, but they're just not that good of an exercise in the grand scheme of things. When Royal Burpee came out with it, he expects you to do 4, and it was just an assessment. There's a lot of exercises I look at, and I'm just like, they're fine, but why do people just have to overdo it? I can't wait for someone to come, I can't wait for when front squats or overhead squats become like the thing, except they never will, because overhead squats are really hard. And if you do, the old standard I have that Mike Weeks gave me years ago, overhead squats, your body weight for 15 reps. I don't know. And when that becomes a thing, give me a phone call because I'll be interested. The things I love to do generally have a built-in governor to stop you from being too stupid. Overhead squats, if you have a sloppy rep, weight goes to the ground. Suitcase carry, if your grip goes, the bell goes, and you're done. I like self-limiting exercises that you don't have to talk about reps and sets. The reps and sets are often dictated by the load, the movement, and your body's response to it. I hope I still remember what I'm talking about here. That was interesting. And Marco, good question. Funny thing is, I sit back here. These were a lot of good questions today, and I really appreciate it. Remember, if you have questions, you will send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. As always, I'll do my best to answer each and every one. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thanks so much.